Well, I'm not really sure how to start this. In simple terms, we bought a disused, abandoned farm on top of a hill in Scotland. As you can see, it gets quite cold. Has anyone gone inside? No. I was talking to a friend who moved to New Zealand about the latest crazy thing we've done. And that was to buy 50 acres of farmland in Scotland. It's completely off-grid, no water, no electricity, an old ruin of a house with nothing in it, and turn it into a farm. But why would we buy a derelict farm in the first place? Well, we had a small flock of orphan lambs. We make woolly hats. They're part of the family, really. We never intended to have them, and we were having to rely on other people's kindness to let us have somewhere for them to graze, and it was becoming quite stressful for both the sheep and for us. And we found this piece of land on top of a hill in Scotland that was really perfect for it. How are you finding the snow? Is this a new experience for you? Oh yeah. Plenty of room for them to live and graze, so we managed to get hold of it. We feel really lucky. It brings with it a whole bunch of other challenges. Going to be constantly learning, have been since we got here. No water, no electricity. It's got a small forest on it, but really starting from scratch with no experience. He said he wanted to, I suppose, see what we're up to, get some updates, and maybe we should do a bit of a YouTube channel. So I thought, why not? What's the worst that can go wrong? So welcome to our little off-grid farm. I can't express clearly how overwhelming moving here and just trying to make the homestead livable was, beyond anything I'd ever thought it could be, which meant I just didn't have time to make videos and do pieces to the camera and talk to people in a meaningful way. It would have just been a mess because there was always something going wrong. After that initial period's now out of the way, it feels like we could do something really interesting and show you how we have gone from never farming, homesteading, smallholding, whatever term you want to use, to making something that we can live on and can support us. And I hope that over the next period of time you find that interesting. Now what I am going to do is, while we were losing our minds trying to figure out how to live off-grid and be a little more self-sufficient, we tried to take short videos of some of the key moments, knowing that we would like to show people what they are. One of the first things that we found we had to do is, although there is a button ben on the site, which is the Scottish two-room traditional house, and we could have moved into it and used it a bit, it would have been impossible to improve and make really livable whilst being inside it. So we had to find a way to make somewhere to live. So we did what I think most people over here do, is we got ourselves a static caravan. That in itself was challenging because we live on top of a hill with tiny roads, and this massive lorry had to deliver what is actually bigger than the house we're going to move into. Once that had been put in place, I mean, even things like how do you get the water into it, because we're not connected to the main, so that brought another set of problems. Like, although we've got a well, and we thought that was going to sustain us, it wasn't good enough. It was a runoff well, just would have been a nightmare. So we had to have a borehole put in, which is another massive unexpected expense. So in the meantime, how do you can't go to your neighbour and take gallons of water every day, because you've got to feed the animals because they're the priority. So it's like, okay, right, what do I do now? And we were lucky enough that the community in the miles around us are really great, and we had a big on the ground water tank put in place and had that filled up. But then I had to, I come from a background that is not farming or homesteading or small holding or whatever term you want to use. So everything that we were doing and everything I had to do was learning from scratch, and I am not a DIY person, honestly. If any of you watch Jeremy Clarkson, he's in the UK, he's quite famous, he's bought a farm. He's a genius compared to me where it comes to doing stuff. So everything was about learning. Just connecting a water pipe from a big tub to the static caravan was a learning curve for me. So I'm not pretending to be good at any of this stuff, but what I have learned is that I love doing all of it, and I love discovering ways of doing things. So once we got the water connected up, fantastic, then you've got to get power. And we had no clue about off-grid power. So that was, again, a journey of discovery, but it takes a long time because there's a lot of money involved. It's not cheap to generate your own power. So while we're going through that whole process, you have moments of what you think are genius, that absolute nutty. Bought a generator, a little petrol generator, mistake number one. So if you're going to do this, do not buy a petrol generator. I did. They don't last very long. Every couple of hours I was having to get up because it's really cold up here, walk into the cold and the wet, fill it up with more petrol just to keep the lights on and enable us to do stuff. Also, when people give you advice, go and find other people to talk to, because when we bought the static caravan, the guy was lovely, but he said, oh, don't do anything to it because when you finish using it, you'll be able to resell it. So don't, put a wood burner in it, don't do these things. And we sort of listened to that, which was a massive mistake, because the first thing we should have done is put a wood burner in it, because we have now, game changer. Because if you've got no power of any sort, you've run out of gas, you can fire up your wood burner and you can live off of it, and it keeps the whole place really warm. So if you're thinking about doing this, put a wood burner in. Best thing, I can't express how amazing it is to walk into a room and be warm. When the first time it snowed and got icy here, nothing worked at all. Nothing at all worked. Woke up to water that had frozen like a cartoon out of the tap. Which means your toilet doesn't work, which means you have to walk down to what we have over here is a pond. So yeah, don't listen to just one person, talk to lots of people. One of the other things that we said when we got here, because we were trying to be sensible, is we wouldn't get any more livestock, any more pets, any more anything. Our lambs had time, our sheep I should say, had time to settle in, and we could learn how best to use the land. One thing that we've absolutely learned is there is a massive amount of community when you are trying to do something like this, and local farmers, they might think you're nuts trying to do it, but they are lovely and help you out whenever you need to be, because there'll be many stories about that. But we got a phone call saying, I know you take orphan lambs, could you help me out? And as much as we had said to ourselves, no, we can't do that, you just can't say no. So in amongst all the crazy that's going on and having no time, we then have what I thought would be 1 or 2 orphan lambs that turned out to be 7. We have a new flock of orphan lambs to look after, which means you have to wake up in the morning at silly o'clock. You don't get much sleep because you're feeding them through the night. We're living in a caravan that is tiny with 7 lambs because you want them to stay warm and healthy and look after them in that way. So that was interesting. And what it does is it pushes back everything else you're doing because your priorities absolutely change. But it's sort of like it's an addiction. You can't say no. They are amazing, and I'll introduce you to them at some point. And the trouble is you start to then get really overconfident because now you've got water, you've got power, you're feeling a bit, we can do this. And one of the things we absolutely wanted were cattle, Highland cows, because they're lovely, but also they have many uses. But again, we said not until the house is ready, we're moved in, infrastructure's sorted out. We just don't learn. some people that we knew had made it known that they had a few Highland cattle that they needed to get rid of because their herd was growing too rapidly. We went just to have a chat with them about what's it like to keep Highland cattle, what are the pros and the cons, what's the, what you need to look out for. So that conversation turned into us going, yeah, we'll have 4 of them, thanks, so they can stay together and they can, again, live long, happy lives. So we've gone from let's not have any more animals because we don't have time to now having 2 flocks of sheep and a herd of cows. So welcome to off-grid living, forgotten homestead. It's sort of spiraling in its own way. I wouldn't say out of control, into somewhere that we hadn't planned, but it's amazing. We've gone from me worrying that my wife's gonna beat me up for moving her somewhere where it's freezing cold, nothing works, and everything I do goes wrong, to a warm, cozy place to live. And the everyday excitement and anticipation of what's ahead of us